This season on The Couch, Falz the Bad Guy and Laila Johnson Salami place your presidential aspirants on the hot seat.
This guy want to put me in trouble. I won't allow you.
Nobody.
Okay.
No, this is a very, 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 very important and sensitive topic, I believe.
The truth.
Okay, do you think that right now, people that have a certain sexual orientation are being discriminated against?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
The excitement.
C'est le moment de faire la fête, c'est le moment.
And the totally unscripted nature. Oh wait, but what is on The Couch?
It's a relaxed talk. I don't want anybody to come here and title chest. I don't know, stronger face. It's not, this kind of setting is all relaxed. You have your stocking, you have your shoe, put on your knicker.
It's On The Couch with Falz and Laila.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Falz, aka Falz the Bad Guy.
And I'm Laila Johnson Salami. Welcome to another episode of The Couch. We have a very exciting guest with us today. You can go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Omoyele Sowore, formerly the publisher of Sahara Reporters.
Yeah. I like the way you introduce yourself. The normal Nigerian way is to have some sort of title, whether doctor, professor,
Honorable,
chief,
Excellency.
honorable. You don't have any of those ones.
No.
Masters in public administration.
That's correct.
And first degree in geography.
Geography and planning.
What made you choose geography and planning?
I think it was because the course I wanted, I didn't get into it. I had to do JAM twice.
Wow, okay.
So my original course of study was business administration.
Okay.
And I couldn't get into that course because I didn't meet the cutoff at that point. So when I was writing JAM the second time, I chose a cutoff that I knew I could make, and that was geography and planning.
So growing up as a young kid, you were not one of the first position.
I wasn't. I used to be until I started to get a little bit liberal-minded.
You're more street smart than book smart.
Probably yes. That I spent more time on the streets than I
Interesting.
spent in a classroom.
What state are you from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Ondo State, and I grew up in a village known
What's
as
the name of this village?
Kiribo.
Kiribo.
Yes. it's,
Apparently, you have about 16 siblings.
that are still alive, that I know of. We're 21 at some point.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we're 16 of us left last time I checked.
So, polygamous background.
Yes. Father had 3 wives. All of them under the same roof.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of traditional litigation right there. They're always fighting over little things,
Okay. So speaking of polygamy, Nigeria currently has an issue in terms of population growth and us trying to handle our large population, which is now at 198 million people.
Yes.
What are your views on birth control?
I don't know if I support birth control because it has a controversial origin, which is the West trying to control the population of the people they consider to be uncivilized. So I have a problem with that. But at the same time, I understand that people have multiple wives, have plenty of children, do so for other reasons. Some of them are that these kids have no access to healthcare. Some people use their families as beasts of burden, So the more you have, the better your economic status or situation, because you can use them to farm. In my own case, I was a fisherman. Everybody had a role to play in the family. And they look at it and say, hey, if I have, 20 kids, maybe some of them will leave, some of them they may not. And finally, I think most Africans also see their families as their own social security units. So when they grow up and they're too old, they want as many kids as possible to be contributing into that social security
But
retirement
you
fund.
think that's fine? You think that's okay?
No, I'm not saying it's okay.
You said birth control is a Western concept.
Yes, that's why I said I have a problem with it, because I've seen where it came from. We got to control the population of these Africans, but without understanding the traditional reason why most Africans do what they do.
So is it okay for most Africans to do what they do?
Well, there's a lot of things that are not okay on the continent of Africa, just like you have in other places. What I'm saying to you is that I do not support populations that you cannot support with your resources, and as a result, I'm inclined to tell people, please do not have too many kids you cannot take care of.
So we should practice this Western concept.
Absolutely. Do you know that before birth controls came into existence, Africans have a way of controlling population?
What's that
What
way?
is the way?
Oh man, it's a deeply sexual world, right? But they've always had ways through which they control ejaculation to avoid people getting pregnant, and it used to work. But in most cases,
Is it like jazz and stuff?
it's not jazz. It's,
How is it?
you know, you can find out. But what I'm saying here is that system apparently wasn't working. Okay. That's why we had to be introduced to other means of doing
because,
it.
I mean, if someone has a system of controlling ejaculation and end up with about 15 children.
That's exactly why I said, you know, it hasn't worked enough. But you don't forget that we have had discussions as to reasons why Africans do what they do. So as we had an improvement in education, in enlightenment, in healthcare, where they had it, more Africans became comfortable with the concept of ensuring they don't have more than enough families that would put a drain on their resources, or that would constitute, you know, a nuisance to the public. That's where we are now. But that is not to discountenance the fact that there might be some other agenda out there that I'm open-minded enough to look at, you know, because I've been out there also for the last 19 years. I understand some of the mental reasons why you see some of these Westerners looking down on Africans. I say, you know, there are too many, you know, but so just to cap it, it is the reason I've described and the reason why I've looked at it and talked about, well, maybe now, you know, there's reason on the other side for what they do, and there's reason why we have to embrace what we embrace.
Okay, just a very quick one. So if you're anti-birth control...
I am not anti-birth control.
Okay, what are you?
Don't say it.
What is your stance? We need to give a stance.
Direct
a solid stance.
I am completely in support of anything that will make people control their population in such a way that you do not have people that you cannot.
Okay, so despite the fact
that you prefer another option to birth control?
Nope. I have not said that.
So
but you have a problem with birth control?
I don't have a problem with
it.
You're putting words into my mouth. I don't have a problem with it. What I've just done is explain to you historically an antecedent that I understand as to why things were happening.
And I think why we thought,
yes,
because I actually thought that too. I think why we thought you had a problem with it was because you started by saying it's a Western concept that is used to control these Africans that they believe are uncivilized.
Well, that's what I've said, that when you look at it, everybody had an argument for what it was.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
And that, you know, I look at all the antecedents, I look at all of the parameters involved in this argument, and we came to the conclusion that this is where we are. It's of course,
okay,
yes.
That's good. You're running for president of Nigeria, and you haven't been in Nigeria for about 19 years. Do you believe that there is some sort of disconnect? Do you think that the people will feel like this man isn't quite qualified?
No, I'm not getting that vibe from anyone. I think that most people actually don't think I left Nigeria until I told them. And it has to do with the wealth of information I have about Nigeria. They see my involvement within Nigerian projects on a regular basis, so much so that most people have to wake up and read the news that is produced from my own staple, Sahara reporters, to understand what is going on in their own country, even though I have been away, so to speak. So maybe physically I've been away, but in other ways I have been around for probably too long.
What would you say you care about the most? What are the things in Nigeria that you see that make you most upset?
Pretty much everything now. We've gotten to a point where I'm upset about everything. I'm upset about the security situation. I'm upset about the condition of our hospitals, roads. You know, even sometimes the level of conversation that we're carrying on or about, or what we care about that we should not be caring about, and things we should care about that we don't care about. All these things get me upset.
So right now, what is our biggest problem as a country?
Oh, I think it's, you know, I won't say one, but two would be security first, and of course, you know, lack of electricity.
Yeah. So if you got in power today, those are the first two things you would face.
Security and particularly electricity would be two things I'll be facing almost simultaneously at the same time. Yes.
Okay.
And, you know, we'll also go and declare a state of emergency in the health sector, education sector, so that those things will start working out. Because I don't believe in this concept that you have to be 100 days in office before you start working.
So your first 100 days, you're already in there?
Oh, no, it's going to be the first day coming to office will be the day we start. we will not wait, for example, for 6 months before we start, to constitute the
But what
cabinet.
about like appointment of ministers in your cabinet?
Look, if I am going into, as I'm planning this now,
You already have your
I've
ministers.
already started deciding who will be Minister of what. And we're having those conversations as part of even our own campaign strategy.
Okay. What
The
party are
shadow
you
camp.
running under?
As the African Action Congress.
African Action Congress.
Yes, it's barely 3 weeks old. It's one of the newly registered political parties.
A party chairman?
I am pro-tem chairman at this point. That's temporary. Any time there's a convention, then there'll be a new chairman.
So what is the party ideology?
We are basically looking at Africa as our own central point of intervention to get Nigeria being Africa's own trigger for development, progress, peace, and prosperity as the future. That is, all Africans will be looking up to us. Well, our ideology particularly is to take care of the welfare of Nigerians. So you can call it a welfareist ideology.
Welfareist.
Yes.
Welfareist ideology.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, well,
That's right, yeah.
what would you say you consider the most important principle when it comes to the rule of law?
I'm not a lawyer. So when you say principle, it's that what exactly are you driving at?
Okay, now
Without trying to make me look like you taking me through a quiz.
no problem.
Yeah.
We are operating a democracy.
Yes.
The rule of law is central to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's some, well, you may, like you said, you're not a lawyer, so you may not be familiar with the principles of the rule of law, but generally speaking, there's some core principles as relating to the rule of law in a
Which are
democracy.
Yes.
Okay,
What are
let me
they?
just, you don't have to say the principles as they are, but what would you say is the most important thing in a democracy?
For me, it is the respect for participation and the enlargement of space for people to actually get their voices heard, get whatever they decide in a democratic society to be respected. Rule of law is very important to it because for all these things to be respected and to be codified and to be enforceable, you have to make sure there are a set of rules guiding whatever is decided upon so that the majority don't game the minority or take anything within our democracy or any democracy for that matter for granted. So our law courts, the respect for our laws and the sanctity of our law courts and their decisions are central to all of this, because then otherwise we have to, engage in some other rules, and it could be sometimes the rule of the mob, and you don't want that. Yes.
I've seen some allegations, some
Yes.
reports in some certain publications about you being involved in some cultist activities.
No. What happened was at the University of Lagos, I was a student union president between 1992 and 1994. And while we were fighting the military, we were also confronted with cult activities on campus. Gangs were forming around us. They were committing all kinds of atrocities. And we decided as part of the broader fight against military rule, considering that the people who were involved in cultism on campus were the children of the same people who were involved with military on the outside, it was time to also fight it as a holistic battle. So as we were fighting external oppression, we were fighting also the informal repression on campus. Because these court guys were children of the rich. We knew who they were, we know their parents, and when they will be reported to the police, they will be back the next hour. So we decided to organize an anti-cult, probably Nigeria's most prominent anti-cult fight on campus during that time. And that led to the fracas in which I was abducted on campus. I was attacked physically, stabbed on the head, and injected with an unknown substance in 1994. It was covered, absolutely. Then the university, instead of expelling the court guys, gathered all of us, the anti-court guys and the court guys together, and expelled all of us.
Expelled everyone.
So while I was in the hospital, the police declared me wanted for robbery, even though I was the one who was attacked. The students who were coming to see me were also arrested and charged for robbery. He took a man known as Femi Falana. I don't know if you are related to him.
I'm not so sure. The name sounds familiar.
So he went to court and told the judge, you are charging people who are fighting armed robbers for robbery. That was how the students were released. And by the time we came back to campus, they had expelled all of us with the course. When we went back to campus, we resisted the expulsion. And they readmitted all of us.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we're this first set of people who were granted amnesty in this country before the Niger militants started enjoying it.
Amazing.
Interesting.
Yes.
There are a lot of allegations when it comes to Sahara reporters that we always see online. A lot of people who speak about money that's been infiltrated into the media company in order to sway the public's opinion towards a particular political party. What would you say on that?
No, it's false. It's been false. The Sahara reporters not only operate out of a society where those kind of things are not acceptable, we also have been transparent as to how we generate or get revenue. And that is to say, when we started 12 years ago, I started with a laptop that I purchased myself for $600 on eBay. Some 7 years into the project, the guy who started eBay invested into Sahara reporters in forms of grants.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, and it was because they were looking all over Africa and looking for new media startups that have very great ideas on how to report ingeniously and innovatively, as Sahara reporters would speak. They didn't even know that I bought my first laptop from them. So when I went to their first meeting, I told them the story, they were shocked. But before then, Ford Foundation had already also given funds to us. And shortly after we got our first injection of grants, we reported one of the biggest stories, probably worldwide at that time, which was the underwear bomber, the Nigerian guy who was trying to bring down a KLM flight over Detroit. And while everybody was looking for his photograph, trying to identify him, we got a picture of him and put it up.
This Farouk Mutala.
Yes, Abdul Mutala Farouk, who's been sentenced to life imprisonment now.
Sahara reporters is allegedly worth about $10 million.
That's what you get from spending too much time on Google.
I want to send you my account number so you can credit me.
You get a fake alert.
Okay, but how much is Sahara reporters worth today?
Honestly, I've never been to, the valuation part of Sahara reporters. I know it's worth a lot more than money. That much I think the value that it creates or brings to society is way bigger than, in my view, the dollar signs or naira signs or any currency. I think it's the biggest currency that Sahara reporters got is just being innovative, and the idea that you can challenge the status quo from, the space, cyberspace, and actually change narrative about how media should operate. Because we're not only watchdog to the government, we became the watchdog to the media at home as well.
If you become president, who will be doing what Sahara reporters?
I'll be doing it. I'll be the first reporter from the government house.
But that will not be from an objective perspective.
No, I will just be making. What do you think Sahara reporters used to do? It's what they call aproko now.
How will you do aproko about yourself? No. So let's say you are in power now, you're not doing something right. Will you report that you're not doing it?
If I'm not reporting, somebody in my government will be doing it.
Now, speaking of Ekiti, I saw a video of you yesterday, and you were speaking about how Ekiti has some of the best marijuana.
Yes.
And under your administration, Nigeria would be exporting marijuana for cancer purposes.
I saw it too.
Not cancer purposes only. Marijuana has got almost 30 uses, including making T-shirts. And nobody's thinking about it here. We are all over the place using NDLA to burn marijuana farms.
Marijuana is used to make T-shirts?
Yes, you can go and it's used to make a T-shirt. You can use it to grow your hair. It calms you down. The part that people hate about marijuana is just one part, the one that gets people high. It's just one part. Marijuana is almost a $60 billion industry right now, and everybody is on that game. And I'm challenging people to start having the conversation for the next generation, such that we can leave behind a lot of old people and old ideas and become players in the international market for new products and new ideas, innovative ideas. So it's what I'm saying, that instead of chasing down people who are selling marijuana and growing marijuana, I will go and encourage the farmers to grow marijuana that we can be selling to people who are making profit out of it. If Ekiti can get $1 billion from selling marijuana, I prefer it than Ekiti going to Abuja to be collecting the handouts from the federal government, waiting for the FAAC. Ekiti can then even be supporting other things that they want to support, including having the best schools in the country because they love to go to school. I'm just using that. People have challenged me that the best weed is not from Ekiti, by the way. They said it's from Delta State, or some said it's Edo State. But whichever way you look at it, there's something about the vegetation of the area called Delta, Edo, and Ekiti, and Ondo states that supports some very high-grade marijuana plants.
The way you speak about it so passionately, I believe that it's something you do consume regularly.
No, I've never tried marijuana before. I think I'm too high on ideas that if I try something else, it won't be good.
So
no, I've never
one day in your life just one puff. At least
no, maybe
something light.
Maybe the time that I hung out around Fela's shrine.
Oh, okay.
Because even if you walk past that place in those days, you get
high already.
Yeah, it's going to be the weed industrial complex. That's
the
what
weed industrial
complex. Yes.
Let's speak about minimum wage in
Yes.
Nigeria today. 19,800, if I'm correct.
Yes.
NLC pushing for 65,000 or 66,500. What side of the divide are you on when it comes to Nigeria adopting a new minimum wage?
I am not on any side of the divide. I'm ahead of the curve.
Okay, and what's
We're
that?
doing 100,000 naira as minimum wage.
Is it feasible given the fact that if we look at states as they are right now, we have governors coming out to say that first of all, they were not elected to pay salary, but on top of them even having the audacity to say that they can't even pay the 19,800 to their public servants?
You see, you cannot decide the fate of workers based on the recklessness of governors. You'll get to a point that there will be a showdown between governors and their own people over their conduct in general, not only with regards to how they pay salaries or not pay salaries. So what I'm saying is that I'm going to be the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, not a state governor. I will start with federal workers and help push to ensure that states, because if you look at transparently what states are earning, they can afford 100,000. But the problem is that the governor wants to walk away with 2 billion out of the 3 billion allocation that is meant for the state for security, vote, and other sundry expenses. A governor wants to be driving around in 56 SUVs, or sometimes 60. They want to be driving around with 200 policemen officially. And all of that emperor-like lifestyle is what is taking away what should have gone to the ordinary people. So there has to be a showdown between the people and their governors. But what I'm saying is that this is my proposal, and I figured out how to pay for it from the federal post to federal workers. It will only cost $1.6 billion every year to pay 100,000 naira as minimum wage to workers. What Nigerian workers are receiving right now is a fraction of what they should be getting. It's only war-torn countries like Liberia and Sierra Leone is paying our kind of minimum wage. 100,000 naira is just $300
But my issue
per month, and that's nothing. None of us seated here or watching this can live on 19,000 naira. You don't want to tell me that a soldier who's going to die on behalf of Nigeria in the Boko Haram head territories can live off of 56,000 naira. We have to discard this whole notion agenda that if we pay workers properly, it's going to cause inflation. It's not going to cause inflation. If we don't pay them properly, it's going to cause war.
I think
So you have a chance to pick between a World Bank-driven theory of economic inflation. I don't think it will cause inflation because what I know about countries that are working is that when they empower their workers, that allows for even creation of small businesses. It increases the purchasing power of people. I use the example of shoes. If you are buying one shoe as a federal worker before, or you are managing one shoes, the moment you get paid more money, you go to the market and order for two. The man in Aba, who is under pressure to produce more shoes, we hire more apprentices. The apprentices get something, and before you know it, you're creating small local industries, whether cottage or not, that will drive the economy. Wherever you go in the world, economies are driven by small businesses, and small businesses are fed by workers mostly. But in Nigeria, we even criminalize the discussion of let's pay workers. Everybody's upset. I'm not only going to pay workers 100,000, I'm going to do the same for NYC, our coppers as well, because they're entitled to minimum wage.
Let's speak about health and education. And I'm particularly concerned, first of all, about education.
Yes.
In 2000, we had 3 million children out of school. In 2010, UNESCO raised that figure to 10.5. And in 2018, The Guardian have come out with a report, as well as other media companies, stating that now Nigeria's out-of-school population stands at 12.5 million children. It's getting higher and higher. How do you plan on stopping it from getting higher, but actually ensuring that every child under the age of 18 is in school?
First is that we have to deliberately invest in education. What we're investing now is not enough. But what we're doing immediately, that state of emergency we are declaring, will also come with hiring 200,000 teachers. And teachers we find out to every nook and cranny of Nigeria, go to teach our kids and educate them. Because guess what? If we don't educate our kids, we better be building prisons. And it is just a must that we must do that. And that's the starting point. We must also go and fix our schools, the existing ones, and build more schools, that can deal with our burgeoning population. And I would do one other thing. This might sound a little, tacky, but we will also criminalize people letting their children sell on the streets when they're supposed to be in school, and enforce it to the letter, because you know what, that is part of the problem. There's no incentive to go to school because parents are using their kids as beasts of burden. They're using them as economic donkeys.
So in the health sector, what other policies are you looking to introduce?
There's a lot, and I'll focus a lot on maternity health, which is a lot of our unborn children don't have health care from when they are conceived or to birth and afterwards, because that's the starting point. And so primarily...
So what's the solution to that?
It's like I mentioned to you, you have to have health workers who are available so that people can get any form of health care in the first place. And also there has to be a deliberate national policy of health in which Nigerians can be registered into a national health insurance scheme.
Okay.
Right now, the National Health Insurance Scheme is just a place where Nigerian government officials go grab money that belongs to the health sector and use it for political purposes. As you saw with the fight between the minister and the executive secretary, who I met recently. So I want to make sure that everybody in this country is registered into the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Okay, does that scheme mean that if I get sick, I'll be treated for free?
Yes, it means that you can have a contributory role in it.
So how long would it take, though, to develop this scheme?
No, it's already in existence. It just needs to be upgraded in such a way that it accommodates everybody.
So for it to work properly,
yes,
in its best state,
yes,
if I got sick,
yes,
I would get treated for free.
You get treated for free, but just to be sure that you're registered into the scheme.
So as I'm registered, am I paying something to contributing to
yes,
the...
if you're not, if you're working for government, you're working for a company, you can contribute through your company, they deduct a certain amount. Okay. But if you're outside of the scheme, you can buy into it, but it's a negligible amount just to get a card. For example, if you're a vulcanizer, you can say, hey, I'm going to register into the National Health Scheme for 1,000 naira. Imagine if every vulcanizer, farmer there puts money into that health scheme. It's an insurance scheme. It will be huge. And wherever you are, if you want to be treated or you get sick, you get help immediately. And it also means that if you're in need of blood, for example, no matter how remote the place is, we get it to you.
In terms of actual facilities,
yes,
in our hospitals,
yes,
in terms of the number of hospitals, in terms of the state of those hospitals, yes, what are you
we have to upgrade, and in places where we upgrade, in places where we don't have, we should build. But also we also must leverage on technology so that we can have virtual hospitals, for example.
Virtual hospitals?
Yes.
How does that work?
Well, you can be in a health scheme and you're in a place in danger, you have a phone and you can call a doctor who can talk to you, prescribe medicine for you, and keep monitoring you telephonically.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we have a situation where, okay, let me use South Africa as an example. 5,000 of our Nigerian doctors are in South Africa.
Yes.
How do we start encouraging Nigerians in the diaspora that have basically left the country because of minimal welfare to actually come back and contribute to the economy of the society?
Yes. We have to learn from what India did, which to attract back all of their professionals that left. They start creating within India safe places for return. And people in diaspora, their greatest fear is security. Some of those things that they are used to, where they have been for a long time, they want to see it replicated at home so that they can come back. Nobody wants to come back to Nigeria, and the first thing he sees at the airport is a custom officer demanding for bribe. That's discouraging. Or the toilets being terrible. 4 toilets at the international airport, you can't maintain them. I'm just using those as even minimal examples. And then they walk into the country, they're not sure if they're safe, or they go to the hospital where you said they should go back and work and find out there are no syringes, you don't even have gloves. So you have to make provision for all those things and then start attracting them back. The interesting thing about Nigerians in diaspora is that a lot of them actually want to come back, even if you don't pay them anything. But they want a home that they can come back to. It also has to do with the housing policy. Maybe you develop a mortgage process for them so that when they come back, they can easily buy a home in a neighborhood that is safe, where they can bring their kids to and live and go to school. So holistically, in fixing everything, you are also automatically attracting people to come back. Making the country secure, in providing electricity, infrastructure, because what do you think a diaspora want to bring back first? His car, even if it's just to show off. But where's the road upon which he drives the car?
Do you think they should be allowed to vote? Nigerians
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. They're already participating in the economic activities of Nigeria. Nigerians are in the diaspora are the biggest foreign investors, if you want to use the word, into Nigeria. $40 billion is what comes in through Western Union and other money transfer. Legitimate, official. But I guarantee you that almost half of that is coming through people who go to the airport and say, hey, help me take the money home. So when it comes to taking the money, if you want to take their money, you should also allow them to vote. Interestingly, Nigerians in diaspora sometimes are even more interested in what is happening at home. Maybe it's because of nostalgia, because a lot of them are also tired of staying abroad.
We even realize that most of our viewers on the couch as well are even from abroad.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, a lot of them. So that's very, very interesting.
And we get depressed about home a lot, so
it's
mental health issues.
So what do you do for fun?
Oh man, I run.
Like track and field kind of track.
Yeah, I'm a long distance runner. I've done 8 marathons, including Lagos Marathon about a year ago, New York Marathon last year, which I did under 4 hours. And this year, I was supposed to go back and do the New York Marathon for the second time this year, but this election is in itself a marathon. So
if a presidential race was an actual race,
there's no question
you'll be
about
first position.
I'll close my eyes. And that's I'm not doing 800 meters.
From here to Ibadan?
I can do from here to Ibadan. I mean, yes, I can do from here to Ibadan.
You can run from the start of the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway to the end.
If you can guarantee me that you want to raise money for my campaign, and you want to
I guarantee you will be president.
Yes.
After that.
Have you thought of that though as crowdfunding? That I'm going to run from the start of Lagos to
That's
Ibadan.
an idea. You have to give us credit for this idea.
Yes. If you want to do it, I'll do it. I'll run from Lagos to Ibadan. As long as Nigerians promise to fund my election.
That's an idea.
Yes.
That's an idea, right?
Now you can follow me, you can follow me with your couch. You sit down on the couch in the car.
Nigerians can now slide you, Sha.
I'm telling you, they'll be like, let's go.
The first time I told a friend of mine from Nigeria, he would call me in the morning and said I'm running. He said, it's like, is the word behind why are you running? What's the problem?
Exercise.
What's your favorite food?
I'm from Ondo State. Pounded yam.
With which soup?
I can do anyone egusi, but there's one soup we have in our area called marubo.
Marubo.
Yes, in medicinal. It's not cooked with weed though. It's
no hemp oil.
No hemp oil.
There's Igbo in that name.
No, it's marubo, but it's not Igbo. That's why I have to do the clarification.
Okay. What kind of music do you listen to?
Oh, I love Fela a lot. But I'm also into the new genres in town. This is Afrobeat, you call it. Now because when I have to run, that's what keeps me going.
So, who's your favorite new generation artist?
Oh man, you don't want me to say that in front of Falz.
Okay, 3.
No,
name.
Apart from Falz.
Let me tell you, I used to love Nice a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was deep, because I like when people are telling stories with their music. That's why I like Fela. When it comes to beats, I like Davido.
Okay.
And when it comes to just feel good cannabis music, I like Falz.
You say cannabis music.
Do you know that when I say cannabis music, there is actually a gene in our body known as the cannabis gene.
Oh.
Yes, so
okay.
You can check this out. It's called feel good gene.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's why Nigerians are happy people no matter their condition.
Is that why cannabis is called cannabis?
Maybe.
Probably, I don't know, but
maybe I hit that gene.
Falz would know, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Personally, I wouldn't know. Okay.
So I'm not trying to bribe you, but that's I listen to Bob Marley a lot as well, because I like music from which you can derive inspiration, and also music that can make you feel good at times, because most of the time we face a lot of hard times on our own, and sometimes we need company, and music does that. In that private space where you're like all alone, music is sometimes the biggest company you can get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want us to do something fun.
Wait, before we get to fun, the last question. If you do not win the elections come 2019, what can we expect from Omoyele Sowore?
Oh, I don't want to think about anything else but winning that election, because if we don't win that election, it's because we didn't go for it well enough, and that would be sad. But if it turns out that we don't get it, I'm sure that you always hear more from me the way you've always heard from me, in the most innovative but unpredictable manner.
Okay.
If you look at the trajectory of my life, I started from a village and ended up in another village, concrete jungle, New York. I started from being a fisherman, became a geographer, and then a journalist. So you can imagine what I will be next, but this has been an eye-opening. I wanted to do this to disrupt the political system, and in achieving that, that's one victory. So we've set for ourselves a lot of goals and different types of ways of achieving victory and measuring victory. All of those parameters will be loading towards something that will be different if we don't win, but what can never be said not to have happened is that we didn't change the narrative or the way conversations are carried out politically in this country, or the way politics is done. So that's a big deal for me. But you expect something bigger, even if I don't win.
Okay.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I said, before we go, I want us to play a game. I have one in mind. I don't know if you have one in mind.
I don't like games.
Let's hear what you have in mind.
What I have in mind, it's very simple, very, very simple.
Yes.
You have to, I'm going to ask you some questions. You have to ask, not questions actually. I'm going to mention some names. You have to say the first word that comes to your mind within 1 second. So it's very, it's very quick.
Isn't that?
I just mentioned the name.
Is that not the reason why they said this is your couch? You're always looking for controversy.
So if I say Falz, you say sweet.
Yes.
That means
If
Falz
I say
is
Laila, you say sweeter.
So within 1 second, you have to be very quick.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Oh, let me take a deep breath, Okay, go ahead.
Game starts now. Buhari.
Slow.
Saraki.
Thief.
Atiku.
Another bigger thief.
Kingsley Malu.
Oh, man, naive.
Beyonce.
Overrated.
Kim Kardashian.
I don't want to get involved.
Kanye West.
Kanye West. He's lost.
Genevieve Naji.
Oh, never met her, never knew about her until too late.
Davido.
Omo Baba Olowo. I hope you do something different with
Dino
your life.
Melaye.
Dino Melaye. Wilderness.
Thank you so much for joining us on the couch. I think we've had so much fun
We
today.
have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Omoyele.
It wasn't too
Sowore.
bad, right?
It wasn't, but I already know what the controversy is.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Next time on The Couch with Falz and Laila.
Membership card and become a member. And
you have to agree with your party ideology. You have to agree with your, with your party manifesto before I just become member now.
If we mistakenly stay and still think that there is a party ideology in Nigeria, we are making a very big mistake.
So there is no such thing.
We don't have
so
ideology.
I don't join any party.
This is Nigeria. Look how I'm living now. Look how I'm living now. Everybody be criminal. This is Nigeria.